Hi everyone, it's Emma, otherwise known as Gazette Girly, and either welcome or welcome back to my channel where I talk about zines, which are handmade magazines. And as it is now 2025, Happy New Year everyone! I thought it'd be really fun to do a mini walkthrough of every single zine I have ever made in 2024, which is also the year I got into zine making. I'm going to do it in categories, so I'm going to start with the first ever zine I made, then I'm going to go into the zines I made in workshops that I've done last year, I wanted to say this year, last year, and then I'm going to go into the mini zines I've made. Then I will be showing you all like the DIY collage zines I've made that haven't been digitally done, and then it will be the professionally printed zines, and then just kind of other zines, which other zines I'm not kind of sure which category they fall into, because maybe like of the sizing or just like the texture of them. Anyway, so as this is going to be quite a long video, let's just get right into it. So here I am presenting to you the first ever zine I made. And that is this zine here, and it is called Wonky. This was basically me just like allowing myself to learn how to fold a zine together, and it didn't go so well, but you know what, that is okay, and I gave it a go, and this is just what happened. So because it was so like messy, I decided to call this zine Wonky, and I just wrote 2 pages in it, and it says, I have never once felt equal, I have never truly felt balanced, I'm always tipping one way or the other, and then the rest is blank. So it's okay to start somewhere, and this is where I started. I think I made this in like April time, and then as I've mentioned before in previous videos, it wasn't until May that I really got into zine making, because I attended my first ever artisan workshop, which is a zine making workshop hosted by the lovely Oana here in London, whose Instagram I will link down below, because she's also just released some dates for some of her workshops over this year. I'm very excited to go back into them. So the first ever zine I made that I actually felt truly proud of, and kind of like the one that kickstarted my love for zine making, because it wasn't wonky, let's be real, I wasn't really feeling like this was my thing at that point, but it was this zine here called Play, which I made in the first ever workshop I went to. So this was kind of inspired by childhood disobedience. That was the theme of the zine, and it was meant to be a poster zine. I just kind of ran out of time to actually do the poster, so when you open it up there is nothing but blank paper on the other side. But I was really proud of the collaging I did in this, and even the way I folded the zine, it's still a little overlapping, but it went so much better than the wonky zine did. And the materials we were able to use were so gorgeous. Like, I'm just obsessed with all like the paper and the layering and the background, and this is when I truly like realized I love collaging. I had done some collage artwork before, but never in a zine format, so I kind of was able to apply that to this, and this is basically what I consider like my first zine, because this is how it all started. Some of the other zines I've made in workshops, this one here, this is called Creature. This is when she hosted a workshop at the Young V&A inspired by their Myths to Manga exhibition, and it was a really fun topic and exhibition to get inspired by. There was a little part in the exhibition called Comfort Creatures, which is about like the little pets you have. This is like a little comfort creature I created, and this is like kind of the forest that this little fruit cami is from, and then just kind of paying homage to small creatures. It says a space for us all, small but mighty, and I loved this like fun paper with all these like weird little creatures on them. They look really cute. And then I just did world, because it's kind of about creating your own world. So that was the one I made inspired by the Myths to Manga exhibition. And then there was another workshop where it was kind of inspired by summer holidays as well. So it was kind of done in a very scrapbooky style, and I loved this image I found of this girl like rocking back on her desk. I thought it was very fun, and I kind of wrote schools out. And then I'm gonna be real, I feel like when I was making this zine I didn't feel super connected to it, but I'm kind of proud of how it came out, because I remember feeling very overstimulated and not in like the best headspace this day. So I was like, I'm just gonna go force myself to leave the house and see what happens, and this is what happened. And then one of the most outside of my comfort zone workshops that happened this year was when Artisan collaborated with Material Girls, who is a really cool fiber artist. I will also link her Instagram down below. And I made my first ever fabric zine. As I've mentioned, I'm not a tactile person, so instead of taking ages to try and stitch fabric to paper. I managed to stick this on with glue, and thankfully it's kind of just about holding it together. But this was really, really fun, and it was so cool to create using fabrics instead of paper materials. I found it very inspiring. I actually love how this came out. I added little pom-poms. I think one of my favorite page detailings is like the little hearts I managed to like stitch in here. This was actually such a good night. Like, there was like a big group of us. It was in like this really nice hotel space. Like, all the lighting was pink. There was like temporary butterfly tattoos. This was like probably one of the best workshops of 2024 I went to. I have like so many fond memories of this, and everyone I met there was genuinely so lovely and so cool. So this, yeah, is the first and only fabric zine I have ever made. I actually ordered a sewing machine, as one of my New Year resolutions is to learn to sew. So I'm kind of intrigued to see if I can incorporate that into zine making and continue to go out of my comfort zone and use fabric in zines instead of paper. Now, the last zine workshop I went to this year was the tunnel zine making workshop, and this is what I made. A tunnel zine, you kind of cut out like a really fun shape at the start of the zine, and you can kind of keep it going throughout, so it just kind of creates that tunnel-like effect. I had never heard of this before until last year, and I thought it was a really, really fun way to add like dimension and depth to a zine. So I kind of got inspired by this image of these like trapeze circus artists, and like created this circus kind of looking front cover, and it says dive in. This was kind of inspired by the topic of home. I didn't intend to do that going into the workshop, it just kind of happened. And then it says a place for flexibility and freedom, and there was all these like really cool spare pages that Iwana had provided from, I think it was like risograph printing workshops that she had left over. And this page is kind of falling apart, but just creating this kind of garden look. And then this is like a dance floor. I like that these look like speakers, and like, I know this kind of looks like an elf heart, but I'm here for it. It was really fun to collage this. And then I think actually the back page is my favorite part of this, and it's like this really cute dog, and the dog looks like it's on some kind of dance floor as well, like a disco floor, and it says finding home in different worlds, from the circus to the dance floor, kind of inspired by a different community, because I also do aerial hoop, and at this time I was doing a lot of shuffle dance, so it's kind of combining the two together. And yeah, this is the only tunnel zine I have made as well, but this was the last workshop zine I made in 2024. So now we're gonna go on to mini zines. I got into collaging last year as well, so I had ordered some really cute like scrapbook collage supplies, and a lot of them came with like vintage music sheet paper, so I got inspired to use the sheet paper as a backdrop, and this is one of the mini zines I created with this. And I also wanted to challenge myself with this, not to print anything out and only use materials I already had. So I had like these really cute black and white butterfly stickers, some like floral card decorations, and this is called Bloom. It's just kind of inspired by nature as well. I had lots of like floral motifs to work with, and this really cute like washi tape, and a lot of the scrapbook had sent like these cute garden images, like the scrapbooking supply kit. So that's Bloom. Another one that I used a lot of like the collage scrap supplies is this one here. On this card it said loss of a friend, a journey with romance at the end. So just that narrative from the card was the inspiration for this entire zine. So I did it about having a crush on a friend. I also have a time lapse on my channel of this, but I'll do a quick walkthrough anyway. And honestly, the scrapbooking materials really provided with that narrative too, because here it says like for my friend, and there was this like really, really cute poem, and I did a lot of like marking with stamps. So this is Be Mine. And then this was really cool because I found like this quote in a magazine, which you can't see, and it says, though it can be an exhausting process, open my heart up. So that was a really fun sort of collaging to do. And honestly, I got stamps at this time, like some alphabet stamps, and it was so fun to finally use them. And this is like the realization that like maybe this isn't a good idea, like the relationship could like ruin the friendship. And then I did this upside down because I'm me, and that stuff just kind of happens. But the back page says we can bloom from this. I guess I was still feeling a bit inspired by the Bloom title, and I made these, I actually think I made these in the same week as each other, so I guess like the word bloom was just kind of in my mind for some reason. One of my favorite mini zines I have made this year is actually this one here, where I took some of my old film images and printed them onto magazine paper. This almost killed my printer, but it came out so well, and my printer is still here and with us. She survived just about, because you're not meant to put anything other than printer paper in there. And I was putting glossy magazine paper in, which it really didn't like, but you know what, it was really worth the outcome. And this was just really fun, like creative, spur of the moment zine. And yeah, I kind of want to do more film photography zines over this year as well. I don't think other than this, I've like hardly done any photography zines, so it'd be nice to explore that a bit more too. And then around this time, because these were kind of like the earlier mini zines I was making, I made this very depressing zine called No Hope. A few of my zines have kind of been inspired by my moods and like how I feel like when I make them on the day, and I was feeling really, really low at this point, and just kind of reflecting on like very negative relationships I had. Like, I'm still living at home even though I'm 27, but my parents live in London, so I feel like the rent in London in general is so expensive, but it doesn't make sense to move out some of the time, but then also like that independence. So I just kind of created this little zine because I wasn't feeling very hopeful, and yeah, at the end I wrote, my hope is gone. But I feel like this is very much a zine that I made for me rather than anyone else, and I really like zine making as a form to let emotions out too, and it was just something I needed to make at the time and on that day, instead of like keeping that very negative hopelessness within me. And this is how it just kind of translated onto paper in a zine format. Now, my top 3 mini zines of 2024 are these 3 here. I also did my first ever arts market in December, and these were the 3 mini zines that I took a lot of copies of to sell, because people, when I posted them, like really enjoyed these, and I'm so proud of these. Yeah, that's why these are my top 3. So we have this one here. This was made purely from images on Canva, but I created a narrative from them, and it's very inspired by like customization and like those games in early 2000s. So you can kind of like pick your outfit. It says, oh my god, Bessie, you look so cute. It's got like a little start button here, and it's called You Can Totally Hang With Us. And then I've made like this loading screen, and it's kind of like you leveled up and you got a pet cat from that, and then it's like, which activity do you want to do with your girl gang? And then it says here, are you sure you want to quit, with a little exit button. I used to love games like Stardoll as well, so this was kind of like a bit inspired by that, and like the fun side of the internet, which I feel like we need more of in 2025. Now, this is a zine I made physically. This isn't a digital zine, and I made this when I was watching a lot of rom-coms and got inspired by like making a zine for a crush, and it's called You. This was also a spur of the moment zine, and I'm kind of amazed with how well this came out. I think out of all the physical zines I've made, this might be my all-time favorite, along with Play. So here it says, I could write love letters to you all day long. And then this page says, you give me all the feels. This pink border is literally a tassel from some trousers that fell off, and I was like, instead of throwing this out, I could use this, and it's pink and it links with the theme. And then here it just says crush, 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 and then this is like a negative film roll that I just cut up, and then it says you on the back. Also, when I did the arts market, someone purchased this and said, I'm gonna give it to my crush, and yes, honestly, fills me with joy. Like, please do give this to your crush. That is the exact purpose of this zine, is to be handed to someone you fancy. My last top mini zine is this one here, Rodent Affirmations. This was inspired by an old Instagram page called Capybara Affirmations. So I found some cute images of rodents online, and I did some digital collaging, all on Canva again here, and I wrote some affirmations to go with them. So this one here, it says, my art does not suck. I'm not gonna quit creating and give in to my imposter syndrome. I prove my self-doubt wrong. Here it's like, people love listening to what I have to say. They love it when I yap. This is probably my favorite page in this zine, and here it says, my dance moves are phenomenal and I'm moving in the right direction. And then this is just like 2 kind of things about boundaries and being overstimulated. So this like very chill looking dude is saying, I will attack anyone who tries to break my inner peace and violate my boundaries. And then I loved this angry hamster image, and it says, I am not annoyed by everyone around me, I am just overstimulated, and that's okay. And this is honestly like how I feel like I look like when I'm overstimulated. Then this little guy, and he's just like, I am affirmed, because after reading this, you have all the affirmations and you're affirmed. And then the last two mini zines I made this year, more towards the end of this year, was this one called, this is just actually a Vinted haul. I've ordered probably too much of Vinted in 2024, but I decided instead of doing like a haul video, it'd be cute to do a haul inspired zine. So I just printed off some of the images of what I had ordered, and I used this like really cool grid paper and did like a little bit of collaging and just kind of wrote why I liked the items I ordered and why I'm excited to have them in my wardrobe. And then I did like a kind of thanks for watching my haul. And then I turned 27 on Christmas Eve, so officially this is also the last zine I made of 2024, and it is this one here, and it's called Cool Things I Did at 26. Because today I turned 27, and this is like a Polaroid I got of me on my 27th birthday. So yeah, just kind of talking about celebrating. I taught and covered my first shuffle dance class. I went to Greece with my family, and my best friend Selena was able to come. I did my first ever solo trip, even though I get really bad travel anxiety. I went to Lisbon by myself for 3 days, and then I also did my first arts market, and that I started making zines this year. So this was like kind of almost like a little roundup of like 2024, celebrating the top moments. I kind of wish I had made this zine a little bigger because there is probably a lot more I wanted to cover, but these are kind of like the main moments that stood out to me, and it's just like a cute little zine to have, and it was very fun to make, and I just felt like creating something, and this is what I created. So this is officially the last zine of 2024 I made. So now we're gonna be moving into the collage zines, or like the physical DIY zines I've made this year that are a bit bigger than the mini zines I've just showed you. So after doing my first zine making workshop where I made play, I kind of straight away went home and was like, I want to make more collage inspired zines. So these were actually the first two zines I made after that zine making workshop. So Swipe Right is a bit of like a satirical zine inspired by online dating. I don't watch football, but there were a few football puns on this pages, like will it be a score? Tune in later for this week's match update. And then this is kind of like a news page where it kind of feels like a news reporter, and it says the news at 5 brings you another tragic ghost tale, and it was too good to be true, sources quote. I think I like re-downloaded Hinge when I made this, and I was like, online dating kind of sucks. So that was my inspiration for this. And I also have a Russian dwarf hamster called Alaska, and I was seeing a lot of online discourse about very unnecessary hamster deaths, like very sad and quite tragic ones. So I made this scene called Hamster Care Shouldn't Be Radical, because I'm so tired of the bad treatment hamsters get because people think they're small and disposable. So in this I wrote the Hammerfesto. It says things like, my hamster cage will have enough space, I will research before getting hamster, I will use safe products, provide my hamster with enrichment and love, and respect its boundaries. And then this is like me kind of venting about all the discourse I had seen on hamster deaths that could have been prevented by common sense and the bare minimum of being able to care for your pet. And just a little reminder, being small and low maintenance doesn't equal disposable. I kind of ran out of things to say, so I just kind of got some pastels, like scribbled on this page and wrote, don't get pets you can't care for. And this folded terribly, by the way, but I feel like the collaging I did in this and like the message was quite important, and like I'm very happy despite this bit really overlapping with how this came together. Now this scene here I have also done a walkthrough of, so I won't go into too much detail of this because I already have on this channel, but I will link it down below. And this is basically more of a scrapbooky kind of zine of when I went to Primavera in 2024, and it was in Barcelona, and it was just a really cute fun time. So this is more of a scrapbook inspired zine, and I'm just very happy with how the collaging came out for this as well. Now I did also go to Greece. I went to Greece first and then Barcelona. I think that's the most traveling I've ever done in my life. And I'm gonna be real, this scene didn't really come out as well as I wanted it to. It's not finished either, but I think sometimes it's good to just show like the realism of zine making. Sometimes you'll get something like this and sometimes you'll get something like this. So this page I really enjoyed, and this is also like a little interactive like pocket where you can pull photos I printed out from. And then I did this collage, and then I just kind of deserted this. I wasn't feeling very inspired. I kind of ran out of collaging abilities, and then I just have the flag on the back. So those are my two like holiday inspired ones, but this one definitely came out a lot better, which is also why there's a walkthrough of it. I'm also briefly going to mention my Dear Diary zine. I actually gave it to the Artisan library, so I do not have any copies of it anymore. The first video on my channel is a walkthrough of that zine, so I'll link that down below. But that was also probably one of my favorite physical zines I've made this year, basically inspired by my childhood diary that I found, and very much documenting quite obvious queer and neurodivergent experiences I had when I was a kid, and that being my experience of girlhood. So yeah, I will link that down below. And then this is just a very standard about me zine. I just kind of felt like posting this on my TikTok. People were like, "Ooh, could you tell us some fun facts about yourself?" So I just did that in a zine format, and this is kind of meant to almost look like a little TV outline, kind of like a vlogger. You know, when people do those sit down, like get to know me videos, that's what kind of inspired this. Another collage DIY zine called Big Feels. Again, this is kind of similar to the mini zine No Hope. I wasn't in a great headspace when I made this, and I kind of just used zines as a tool to vent. I think this page, I was very inspired by this image. She looks like she's low-key kind of dumb behind this smile, and I wrote, "Don't ask me how I'm feeling, because I never know." And then like it all went wrong at such a young age, and like trauma shouldn't be a requirement for growth. And it's also faded, kind of like faded memories, because a lot of my childhood I don't remember. So this is kind of just like a very like mental health related inspired zine. And then like on these teeth I wrote "send help," because that's how it feels sometimes. And then one of the last zines I also made this year, along with like the vintage haul and the stuff I did at 26, is this zine here, which is called "This Zine is a Mess, But So Am I." And I hadn't done a collage or like physical zine in a while. I'd done quite a few digital ones before making this, and I just kind of ended up doing it about neurodivergent experience, feeling like you walk wrong, everything you do is wrong. And then this here is just like about it being hard to like love or allow yourself to feel loved. And then this is just kind of like just feeling like you're all messed up and like you're kind of made wrong, and just feeling a bit like an alien and just a bit like a mess. So yeah, the kind of like chaoticness of the cover and like the quite scrappy look of it was the inspiration, and then it just went into like me chatting about my neurodivergent experiences. Now I'm going to be going into the zines I got professionally printed this year. The printing service I use is called Mixam. I will also do a link to them down below. They're incredible. This isn't sponsored or anything. I just kind of found them on a whim after doing research for like how to best print off your zines. So yeah, these zines I've made, I think all of them I made using Canva, and then I just sent them off to get professionally printed. Firstly, we have notes on therapy, which I just kind of made inspired by some notes I had taken at therapy sessions I had over last year. And then I used actually the collages in this one I made on this app called Landing Space, which is actually now also called Zine, but it's spelled Z-E-E-N. And then I just kind of like put this together in Canva and did like the text in Canva. So I kind of was like making sure that the notes I was taking from the therapy session kind of like were inspired by the collages I had done. For example, I think one of my favorite like little detailings I had in here is like this worm eating through the apple, and here it says there's a lot of shame eating away at you, and then like you can't let shame win, and this is meant to be like a cloud of shame, which I sometimes feel is just like looming over my head. So again, like very mental health related, and this was actually the first like zine I got professionally printed last year. And then we're gonna go on to my favorite zine project of 2024, and that is Gazette for the Girls. So this I made to kind of reclaim my girlhood, reclaim hyperfemininity, which I got bullied a lot for. Being like girly was seen as like such a crime when I was growing up. People be like, "Oh, you're so girly." Like it was a really negative thing to be. So I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna just like make this for my younger self. So this issue I just kind of wrote and created every single page for, and it was really, really fun putting this together. This I just kind of used again like Canva, and I just kind of wrote like Like there's letters on friendship in here. I was very much inspired by the magazines I liked to read when I was younger, like Ms, Sugar, Bliss. I feel like if you grew up in the UK in like the sort of 2000s, mid 2000s, like you will know what I'm talking about. But then also taking elements from like Rookie magazine, making it a bit more empowering and a bit more interactive, and having that sort of like nostalgia for girlhood there. So like there's crosswords, there's quizzes in here. I made like a page where you could write a letter to your younger self, and then I decided just from this issue I actually wanted to create a community issue that people could submit into. So the home issue got created. So home was the theme, and it was like how you relate girlhood to the topic of home. And I got 3 submissions, which is incredible. And this is probably one of the top zines I have made this year. So linking it to home, I did like a little loungewear spread. You can like color in your own pajamas, like design your own home. I always loved very like interactive like stuff in magazines growing up too. It just felt like there was more of like that personalization, like personal connection there with like the magazine you were consuming. And then I got this amazing collage sent in by Jackie Jones, and she did like this beautiful sort of explanation of how it relates to girlhood and home and her understanding of it. I had this absolutely gorgeous poem by Plazzy Bag. She sent in this image to accompany it of her nan as well. I also have this really lovely poem sent in by Sam as well, and just this was just so fun to put together, and all the submissions were so gorgeous, and like it just really pulled it all together as well. And then it's like, what does home mean to you? And I also have the next community issue, which will be out probably around February time, but submissions are still open until 12th of January. I'll link the submission form below as well, but it's on the theme of evolve and like evolving and how you link that to girlhood. And then I made this zine on Canva and also got it professionally printed, and it's called Confessions of an Oversharer, and it's me oversharing some very personal things. And I'm gonna be real, I love Pretty Little Liars. It's an absolute garbage can of a show, but I kind of linked it into the scene. It was really fun to just kind of like sprinkle a little low-key reference in, and I wrote, if I learned anything from Pretty Little Liars, it's that secrets keep us closer together. Again, me oversharing. I like PLL even though it's a terrible show. And then the last 2 zines I got professionally printed this year are these 2 here. I'm gonna consider these zines, but they're basically, the content on the inside is exactly the same, they just have 2 different cover spreads. I think this one I prefer. But I love journaling, and so I kind of created this zine for people to use as their own personal diary or journal. I wrote like a little sort of brief about it, and I've basically created pages that people can use with prompts on. So here it's like, what do you love about yourself? This is a space to vent. And then use this space for your favorite memories and what you're grateful for. But I also wrote in like this bit here that you do not have to use these prompts. They're just there if you need a bit of guidance, because sometimes journaling and starting a diary can be really overwhelming, and having prompts can be a really useful place to start. And then this is just like a bit more of a chaotic cover design of it. Now, some zines that fall into the kind of other categories are these 3 here. So I'm gonna start with this Dear zine. Again, most of these I kind of like Big Feels and No Hope, made when I was in like a very emotional space, and this is just kind of letters I wrote to various people who have hurt me and caused me a lot of trauma. And I also wrote one to like my inner child as well, and I did like a little collage motif in this bit. This is basically me just venting through writing letters. In one therapy session I had last year, she kind of mentioned that it can be a really helpful way of like getting emotions out and thoughts and feelings towards a certain person who may have put you through something out, by writing them a letter that they don't ever have to read. You do not need to send it to them. And this is just kind of what came from that, and I just felt like making a zine from that idea, and it was actually really cathartic, and I very much needed it in that day. I felt like I got a lot of negative emotions out. And then this zine here is called Thoughts and Feelings, and I was very much inspired by using magazine paper as the backdrop, and then just kind of like scrapbooking and like collaging over it. This is unfinished. I kind of ran out of things to say. I feel like I used too many pages in this, but I think the front cover is my favorite part of this. So that's kind of all I have to say on Thoughts and Feelings. It was kind of like, let's take this inspiration of using magazine pages, see what happens. This is but it didn't get finished. And then this is probably one of the worst zines I made this year, and it's also not finished. So I was kind of inspired from the workshop of using different materials, and I found a paper bag and I attempted to create a lyric book inspired by Fiona Apple's song Paper Bag. And it didn't go well at all. This was not the vision I had in mind, and it just didn't execute well. And I got to like this page here and then just completely discarded this. I feel like the idea was good, but it just didn't go to plan. So this is probably one of the worst zines I have made this year. That is all the zines I have made in 2024. I hope you're feeling inspired and start making zines in 2025. And I am very excited to see what you all create. And thank you so much for watching this video.